I'm Jiro, but you can call me Jojo. I'm gonna tell you the story about how I got this scar on my neck, which also happens to be about how I almost died. The way I got this scar wasn't even that crazy, it's just what happened afterwards that made me almost die. So, some of this is just based on what my family told me, because I don't remember a lot of it. So, basically, me, my sister Adina, my mum, and my dad had recently moved to America. My sister wanted to go fishing, and I like fishing, so my dad had found this lake he said had a good tower to fish from. Lots of fish and no dangerous fish. There's a lot of dangerous fish in Aussie, but not so many in America. Anyway, we got there and it wasn't exactly like we expected. The water was murky and dirty. The tower thing was in the middle of the lake and it was really old and made of wood, but it only had one beam in the middle supporting the whole platform at the top. There was a dock that looked newer than the tower leading out to the tower, and there was a ladder that went up to the support beam. My mom and dad didn't want to go in the tower because they're scared of heights, but me and Adina weren't, so we took our fishing poles and climbed up the ladder to the tower. The platform had rails, but they were also made of really old wood. The whole thing was a bit wobbly, so me and Adina stood on opposite sides of the platform to fish. My parents sat on a bench on the shore facing Adina's side. So we were just fishing for a while, and I ran out of bait sausage things that were already cut, so I got out my pocket knife and cut some more. But one of them was really tough to cut through, so I was trying different ways to cut it, and I was cutting it towards myself with a lot of force. I know, that was really stupid. Honestly, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have got this scar, or almost died. It's completely my fault. Anyway, the knife slipped and I cut myself right above the collarbone. I was like, ow! And my sister said, what happened? And I said, I cut myself trying to cut the bait. And I put my pocket knife away. I looked down and I could see blood running down my shirt, but I couldn't see where it was coming from. I started feeling lightheaded. My mom said, how bad is the cut? I was like, really bad. It's on my neck. My sister turned around, but I was facing the other way. She said, are you okay? I didn't know how to answer that. I wiped the sausage juice off my hand using my shirt and covered my neck with my hand. I heard Adina say, Jojo, turn around. So I turned to face her and she said, oh my god, that's a lot of blood. I felt really dizzy and I grabbed the rail behind me for support. I heard my dad yelling something about band-aids. Adina was like, Jojo, are you okay? And I could barely tell what she was saying. I said, I don't feel so good. And Adina was like, Jojo, you look like you're about to pass out. She didn't want to come over to me because she was afraid that it would break the platform, but she noticed I was getting weaker and I couldn't keep my hand over the cut anymore. I could barely keep my eyes open. She came over to me and held my face in her hands. She looked into my eyes and I could tell by her expression and the way she said, Jiro, can you hear me? That I must have looked really rough. Then I felt the platform starting to tilt. Adina said at that point Mom was yelling, the support is breaking, so she ran back to the opposite side of the platform, but I didn't follow her. The colour was draining from my face and my eyes were almost closed. She said, Jojo, come to this side, but at that point the tower was already falling and I couldn't understand her. I was lying against the rail and then the rail went under and so did I. Then Adina went under. I saw her look down at me, and that's the last thing I can remember. She said she saw me close my eyes. I'm basically telling this story from my family's perspective from now on. My parents were running towards the dock. The tower had sucked us down into the water. After a few seconds, Adina reached the surface. Our parents were at the end of the dock. My mom was like, Adina, where's Jiro? And she looked down into the water, but she couldn't see me. She said, he's still down there. He passed out. My mum told my dad to call 911. Adina swam down to find me, but I was really far down, so by the time she did, she didn't have much air left. She tried to grab my arm and swim up, but she knew it wasn't going to work, so she went back up to the surface. She collected herself, thought about what to do, and immediately came up with a plan. Without hesitation, she climbed onto the dock, dove into the water, and swam directly to where I was. She's amazing, I know. Then she basically hugged me and swam up really carefully. While doing that, she remembered about the cut and covered it with one hand. When we reached the surface, she put my face out of the water and she carried me over to the dock. My dad was on the phone with the police, basically narrating what was going on. My mom helped Adina get me up on the dock. The 911 operator asked if the cut went into my throat, and luckily it hadn't. The operator said that they should use a piece of clothing to cover the cut, and my mom immediately took off her shirt and put it on my neck. Don't worry, she was wearing an undershirt. Then they were trying to figure out whether I needed CPR. I wasn't breathing, but I did have a pulse. They didn't need to do CPR, just rescue breathing, which is the mouth-to-mouth part. That was the weirdest thing to think about. My family never told me who did that part, just that one of them did. And then after that, the ambulance showed up and I still wasn't breathing. So then my family had to get off the dock so that the paramedics could do their paramedic stuff, and they did. They controlled the bleeding, got the water out of me, and I started breathing. Then after that bit, I woke up and coughed up some more water. They told me my dad said, "Jiro, did you meet God?" When I woke up, and I didn't respond, but I didn't remember that. Also, no, unfortunately, I didn't get to meet God. I wasn't dead. The first thing I remember is seeing a bunch of strangers around me and looking for my family. Then I saw them, and I looked at my mom. She said, "Oop," and covered herself with her arms, and my dad gave her his shirt. I think the first thing I said was, "Adina?" And she said, "I'm right here," and squeezed my hand. She'd been holding it the whole time. And yeah, then they took me to the hospital and all that, and I was fine in a couple of days. And now I'm here with a scar and a good story in my life. I'm still alive, pretty much thanks to my sister. I know I've said this before, but thank you, Adina. The paramedic said if she hadn't collected herself and thought about what to do the way she did, I would have not survived. And she gets embarrassed when I tell people this, but my mom said she cried when the paramedics came and she had to leave me on the dock. I don't think that's embarrassing. It just shows that you care about me, and I appreciate that as much as I appreciate you saving my life. So thank you, and Mom and Dad, and thanks to the paramedics and the 911 operator and all the people at the hospital. Everyone involved, really. You're all amazing people who do amazing things. And thank you for listening to my story.